Well, when I say knowledge, some of the knowledge is pseudo-knowledge, and some of the knowledge is actually scientific knowledge, which enabled, for instance, Christopher Columbus to be certain that he could sail across the Atlantic and hit land. He was associated with the Knights Templars, which is one of these secret societies associated with the Illuminati. So you've got different types of knowledge, but some of the knowledge is actually bogus. It's just claimed so that they can get people to join whatever mystery religion they're trying to offer. How they pass power from one generation to another. It also involves the occult powers. They try to have full-blooded members. They believe that, at least the traditionalists within the Illuminati, which are the full-blooded members, they believe that to really be a powerful witch with all the occult powers that demonology gives you, that you have to be a full-blooded member who's got a genealogy that goes back many years. Right, it's generational Satanism. And they have to operate also within bloodlines because of the way that they carry out their mind control. They make program DID, or what was commonly known for a couple hundred years as multiple personality disorder. They program their members with MPD, and in order to do that, you have to have someone who will disassociate when they're traumatized rather than die. There's three things you can do when you're severely traumatized. You can just curl up and die, or you can go crazy, or you can have the creativity and the dissociative abilities to splinter the mind into a multiple. And they want that ability. It's essential because the satanic rituals that they carry out, which are horrendous traditional rituals, blood sacrifices, requires a certain level of insanity and dissociative ability. In other words, what I'm getting at is if you were a normal, sane person and you had to participate in the higher level Illuminati rituals, you'd probably go crazy without the programming and the MPD that they carry out. So it's absolutely essential that they maintain the bloodlines.
I am honored to present this book to those who seek and cherish the truth. This work is for individuals who have a passion for uncovering reality, as well as for those familiar with my previous writings. An Illuminati Grandmaster once remarked that the world is a stage, and all of us are merely actors. While this idea is not original, it aptly encapsulates the Illuminati's perspective on how the world operates. The Illuminati sees the masses as an audience to be manipulated through propaganda. A notable example of this manipulation was President Bill Clinton's 1995 State of the Union address, which was meticulously crafted to elicit emotional responses and secure public approval. His speech was designed to strike all the right chords with his audience, bolstered by a cooperative congressional backdrop. However, the truth often lacks the comforting allure of lies and does not cater to the ego. For some, the truth revealed in this book will be too glaring, prompting them to retreat to the familiar shadows of ignorance. I do not approach this topic as a conspiracy theorist. I deal in verifiable facts. Many of the individuals I discuss are people I have met, and some remain alive and dangerously influential. The Illuminati thrives on secrecy, making it their way of life. This culture of concealment explains their disdain for individuals like Carroll Quigley and James H. Billington, who sought to document historical truths instead of perpetuating fabricated narratives. As a devoted student of history, I prioritize authentic accounts over the deceptive stories fed to the public for manipulation. The Illuminati's control over this country is not a future possibility. it is a historical reality. They have long dominated the government, rendering the Constitution effectively null through emergency decrees since World War II. As followers of Christ, we are called not to fear. True love for Almighty God dispels all fear, grounding us in trust for the position He has placed us in. Voting them out is not a feasible solution, as the Illuminati controls both major and minor political parties, the flow of information, the monetary system, and even aspects of Christendom. However, God remains sovereign over the hearts of His people. While my other writings provide guidance on how to respond to these powers, this book is not intended as a manual for direct action. Instead, it serves as the first of 2 volumes offering a broad overview of the Illuminati.
Human sacrifices. You go throughout the world and you examine the different cultures, and you'll find that human sacrifice has been fairly widespread. And these powerful families have always felt that they gained power and through sacrificing other people. They themselves decided that they would have 13 families, or really maybe a more descriptive word would be tribes. And it's my understanding that the reason why they chose the number 13, besides its magical implications, is also it's in mockery of what God had done. Because, as you know, there were 12 tribes, so in mockery of that, then they have chosen 13 satanic bloodlines. But in working with people that were in the Illuminati and helping people get out of the Illuminati, I've gotten a fairly good handle on what last surnames they use. And although there's hundreds of, say for instance, Rothschilds in the United States, most of the descendants of the Rothschilds have other surnames. And so when I say bloodlines, that's more descriptive of families. And there are certain families within the entire context of the Illuminati that have become powerful in themselves but aren't labeled by them as one of the top 13. And as there's a continual power struggle between everybody within the hierarchy, you have some factions that become more powerful, and as those families become more powerful, they deserve recognition of their own. So I listed the Reynolds and the Krupp family. Actually, I listed 2 extra besides the 13, the Reynolds and the Krupp family, because from the inside information I had gotten, they were very powerful.
At its core, the Illuminati consists of generational satanic bloodlines that have amassed immense power. A generational Satanist once described the Illuminati as Satan's elite. This book seeks to illuminate who they are and the mechanisms through which they exert their influence. This book is not meant to create fear or spark a witch hunt. It is not about promoting another theory or conjecture. Instead, this book focuses on the hidden occult groups that hold power over the world. The facts presented here speak for themselves, and I encourage you not to simply take my word for it. Investigate these claims for yourself. God has already revealed that the entire world lies under the influence of the Wicked One. Many readers, after engaging with my material, have taken the initiative to explore their own communities. They have discovered firsthand that a small group of individuals wields significant control over their nation and the world from behind the scenes. These secret societies exert an incredible amount of influence, operating quietly and away from public scrutiny. This book seeks to shed light on the reality of these hidden powers and their far-reaching impact. My aim is to provide you with information that can guide your own exploration of the truth, allowing you to see the evidence for yourself. This book is not perfect. It contains typos, misspelled names, and other errors. I am not God Almighty, and I do not have every detail accounted for. Unlike the elite, who can invest millions into trivial projects with professional teams of ghostwriters, editors, and researchers, I have worked with limited resources. There have been times when I couldn't even afford to photocopy important documents. Despite these challenges, I have dedicated years to uncovering and sharing the truth about the Illuminati, who they are, their rituals, and how they control the world, to provide readers with a clearer understanding of this hidden system of power. After numerous requests to compile my findings on the top 13 Illuminati bloodlines, I finally decided to assemble them into this book, complete with a comprehensive index. Understanding history is essential because it shapes our present and future. The Illuminati control the learning process from birth to death, which allows them to influence how people perceive the world. As Jesus and Paul frequently referred to historical events to teach, and as Josephus chronicled the history of Israel, understanding the past is a crucial step in uncovering the truth. In the dark, unwritten history of humanity, powerful rulers discovered how to control others through fear, manipulation, magic, war, politics, religion, and financial exploitation. Over time, elite families developed secretive strategies to maintain their power and occult practices. Layers of secrecy have shielded these families from public awareness, though many authors have touched on their existence.
Beyond just having the 13 families that they have listed as important or the top, they also, in a sense, recognize the power of other families. For instance, Bill Clinton has become very powerful in his own right. So, or the George Bush family. So, although they are descendants of these 13 tribes, they in themselves now, in this time period, are worthy of special focus or mention. There's two basic levels in the Illuminati. There's the anarchy level. In one of my books, I listed hundreds of satanic covens and their addresses across the United States. I mean, there were so many that I listed, numerous pages, that I haven't gone through and counted how many hundreds of addresses of different covens. And these are very eclectic, and besides these witchcraft covens, there's other lodge systems and other things also on the anarchy level. On the anarchy level, you can't discern any pattern because everybody believes differently. Then there's three levels within the anarchy level. As you know, there's three levels to witchcraft. And then the next level are is the hierarchy level, which also has basically three levels to it. Although within those three levels there's ranks and grades, and above that there are councils that you can belong to that have special powers, and there's also special ranks and grades above those three basic grades. But yeah, it's basically anarchy level and hierarchy level with three levels to each of those.
My investigation began when credible sources confirmed that a powerful elite rules the world. My skills as a researcher and insights from informed individuals allowed me to uncover Satan's hierarchy rapidly. I have read and prayed over thousands of books, newspapers, manuscripts, and other materials, often working late into the night until exhaustion overtook me. Influential works like Occult Theocracy by Edith Starr Miller and The Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop provided valuable insights into the continuity between ancient occultism and modern practices. Similarly, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and its sequel, The Messianic Legacy, illuminated key aspects of the 13th bloodline. These and countless other brave investigators inspired my work by challenging the structures of power to uncover the truth. In imitation and mockery of God's 12 tribes, Satan established 12 bloodlines. Among these, one was the Ishmaelite lineage, which developed occult practices like alchemy and assassination techniques. Another was the Egyptian/Celtic/Druidic line, responsible for the creation of Druidism. One bloodline originated in the Orient, introducing various forms of Oriental magic. The Canaanite lineage, tied to the name Astarte, evolved into names like Astorga, Astor, and eventually Astor. The tribe of Dan, often compared to Judas Iscariot, became a powerful satanic bloodline with royal lineage persisting throughout history. The 13th bloodline, the most significant, was modeled after God's royal lineage of Jesus. This satanic house of David is believed by some to carry not only the bloodline of David, but also that of Jesus, based on the claim that Jesus had a wife and children. The 13th bloodline is said to contain the seed of Satan himself, merging Christ's lineage with that of Lucifer. One bloodline traces back to Babylon, descending from Nimrod. For centuries, the occult world has remained hidden from history books, as publishing and education have been privileges controlled by elites. These secret societies operated under the guidance of councils, culminating in a supreme governing body. These groups influenced the masses and political leaders alike through the mystery religions. As I delved into the Illuminati, I found evidence of doctored history books and a concentration of power in the hands of global oligarchies. When asked who these conspirators are, I've uncovered that the elite have maintained their dominance for centuries, collaborating with other elites to manipulate the masses. What history often presents as wars between kings or factions is, in reality, carefully orchestrated conflicts by the elites to further their own control. The true nature of these bloodlines lies in their secrecy. Due to their dark and corrupt origins, they have traditionally remained hidden. Some individuals, however, have escaped from these generational satanic bloodlines and turned to Christ, providing invaluable insights into this hidden world. Their testimonies, alongside those of witnesses like Tom Collins, John Todd, and David Hill, have been vital in uncovering the truth. Though many of these brave individuals have been silenced or discredited by Illuminati forces. Despite the dangers, multiple sources, including ex-members of the Illuminati, confirm the existence of 13 bloodlines. This book seeks to expose the workings of these families and share what witnesses have seen but are often too intimidated to reveal. My list of families may not be completely accurate. There could be a name or two that's incorrect, but any discrepancies are likely minor. I trust the facts to speak for themselves. As you study these bloodlines, you'll see the immense power they hold. David Hill, a high-ranking Freemason who worked for the Mafia, was investigating the Illuminati and tragically lost his life because he got too close to the truth. I came across David Hill's research manuscript 2 years after I began reporting on the 13 families. Like me, David started by asking questions and uncovering who truly controls the strings of power in this country. Through his research, he identified some of the most prominent and influential families. In his notes, he listed names like the Mellons, Carnegies, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Astors, Vanderbilts, Whitneys, and others. Interestingly, these wealthy, Illuminati-linked families seem to get along well with communists, despite the narrative that communists oppose the wealthy elite. This contradiction, as Hill pointed out, is deliberate double talk, meant to perpetuate the illusion that communism is opposed to capitalism. In reality, these families are not enemies of monopoly capitalism, but of free enterprise. My own research eventually moved beyond David Hill's findings, as individuals escaping the Illuminati provided me with the names of the 13 families at the core of this network. Yet, Hill's validation of some of these families was a pleasant confirmation of my findings. It's also worth noting that many of the allied families, if not all, likely intermarried with these bloodlines, further cementing their shared influence and power. Because this book is a collection of things which I have written over the years, allow me to review what was written. In 1991, one first self-published my Be Wise as Serpents manuscript which exposed the top 13 families. In 1992, one began my newsletter to continue exposing the Illuminati and came out with some monographs exposing the Monarch Mind Control Program and the Illuminati plans, or methods to create earthquakes, from the mid-to-high. 92 newsletter up to the most recent ones in 1995. One have run feature articles exposing the different top 13 families. This book is a collection of things I, Fritz Springmeier, wrote between 1991 and 1995 about the top 13 families. Chapter 1. The Astor Family. The founder of the Astor family fortune, John Jacob Astor, 1763-1848, was born in Waldorf, in the Duchy of Baden, Germany, to a Jewish family. This heritage was later obscured, with various alternative narratives about the Astor lineage circulated by the family itself. Initially, John Jacob Astor worked as a butcher in Waldorf. In 1784, he emigrated to America after a brief stop in London, reportedly arriving penniless. Despite his modest beginnings, Astor quickly rose to prominence, joining the Masonic Lodge and, within 2 to 3 years, becoming the Master of Holland Lodge No. 8 in New York City. This lodge had notable connections to influential elites, including members linked to the Illuminati. For instance, Archibald Russell, a member of Lodge No. 8, was the son of the president of the Royal Society of Edinburgh, a hub of Illuminati activity at the time. Astor's rapid rise is remarkable given that he reportedly spoke little English upon his arrival in America and was known for his cold, antisocial demeanor. Even a sympathetic biography by a relative from the DuPont family described him as lacking charm, wit, or grace. His ascent within Freemasonry was unlikely due to his social skills. A telling anecdote illustrates his lack of refinement. During a formal dinner, he wiped his dirty hands on the shirt of the man seated beside him. Astor's financial success began with dubious real estate deals in New York City. His fortunes grew further through a special government privilege granted by President Thomas Jefferson and Secretary Albert Gallatin, both associated with the Illuminati. During the 1807 U.S. trade embargo, Astor's ship was granted exclusive permission to sail, earning him nearly $200,000, a massive sum for the time. Astor's wealth and influence expanded during the War of 1812, which devastated many American shipping businesses, but curiously enriched him. He also collaborated with George Clinton, another figure tied to the Illuminati, on land deals. British intelligence, which operated under the Committee of 300 and the powerful 13 families, had connections with Astor. According to John Coleman, who accessed classified documents as an intelligence agent, John Jacob Astor was a British secret agent. This link highlights the close ties between the 13 families and both American and British intelligence networks, reinforcing their powerful roles behind the scenes. Before 1817, John Jacob Astor entered the fur trade and quickly became its dominant player, maintaining a monopoly until he exited the industry in 1834. The speed and scale of his success are remarkable, considering that fur trading had been a long-established practice among settlers and indigenous peoples in the New World. Astor's rapid rise can be attributed to his connections and possibly the influence of powerful groups like the Committee of 300. Without such backing, it is unlikely he could have displaced others who traditionally controlled the fur trade. One outcome of his ventures in this field was the establishment of Astoria, Oregon, which remains notable as a center for certain secretive activities. Astor's connections played a significant role in his success. He had family members who captained clipper ships, links to the influential Backhouse family in London, and ties through marriage to the Todd family, which had associations with occult practices. His wife was also connected to the prominent Brevoort family. Additionally, Astor maintained favorable relationships with key politicians of his era, many of whom were Freemasons, aligning with his own Masonic involvement. For a time, Astor also participated in the opium trade, a lucrative industry controlled by the British East India Company, BEIC, and overseen by the Committee of 300. According to John Coleman's The Conspirators' Hierarchy, the story of the Committee of 300, Astor amassed substantial wealth through this trade before publicly distancing himself from it in 1818. Other powerful families, such as the Russells, also benefited from this industry. Astor's involvement highlights his access to insider information and his ability to navigate political and economic networks. Astor's business dealings extended beyond the fur and opium trades. He invested heavily in New York real estate, acquiring large amounts of land that appreciated significantly in value. During the financial panic of 1837, he took advantage of the crisis to foreclose on numerous properties, further increasing his wealth. Astor's reputation was that of a ruthless businessman with little regard for ethics. He was known for being an exploitative landlord, failing to honor debts, and prioritizing profit over principles. In addition to his business ventures, Astor was a banker and held a large stake in the Bank of the United States, a national bank established by Alexander Hamilton. He also maintained active involvement in Freemasonry, occupying influential positions within the organization. By the time of his death, Astor was the wealthiest man in the United States.
All kinds of things, all aspects of their lives are influenced by these people. They're the movers and shakers of the world. There's some disinformation out there that I need to clarify, and that is the misunderstanding that's common out there is that this man, Adam Weishaupt, which was a pseudonym, a name that he had taken actually, started the Illuminati. He did create a modern structure for it. He was paid by these families to create a modern structure. But he didn't originate the Illuminati. The Illuminati goes back thousands of years before him. And the reason why I mention this is that if we go back into antiquity, we will see that there were certain families that were deified as gods, like Pharaoh, Alexander the Great. Maybe some of the viewers don't know that Alexander the Great believed that he was descended from gods. Genghis Khan, who still worshipped in Mongolia. These powerful families believed they were gods, and they controlled through their priesthoods in these mystery religions the people that were subservient to them. They never wanted to relinquish power. They networked together, and over history you can never find any point in history where they gave up their power. What they did is they did a lot of sleight of hands and went underground or behind the scenes and let other people become frontmen, but they've still stayed in power. You can see a lot of I give a lot of evidence of that in my Bloodlines of the Illuminati book. Just some everyday examples that I ran into is, as a boy, you know, I met Henry Cabot Lodge, and someone who would read American history would know about John Cabot exploring the United States, which was of the Italian Caboto family. A man recently, may have heard of him,
yes, says
that he has the genealogy charts to show that all of our presidents were related. I have, in the talks that I've given in the last couple of days here in Austin, I showed a genealogy chart that I have, which shows 12 of the American presidents very closely related. And satanic rituals had been secretly practiced in these Christian churches all down through the Middle Ages and up to present times. These were sacred sites that the churches were built on. In fact, some of them were built on very sacred druid sites and things like this. And so the Christian churches were simply functioning as a front so that these people could do their human sacrifices and so forth in secret. And of course, then they became pillars of society with their multiple personalities. They could have a front personality that was the ideal Christian, and on the Sabbat, on Friday night, they could be sacrificing somebody, and perhaps on Sunday morning, they could be the reverend that was giving the sermon. There's a number of other proofs that one can, or evidences of what was going on. If you go throughout Europe, you'll see a large number of the churches had winged reptilian gargoyles put on them. There's something that I would point out to our listeners out there in television land, and that is that the movers and shakers do not become rich and powerful and then join the Illuminati. They become rich and powerful because they are part of these Illuminati bloodlines, and their councils decide how they're going to divide up such things as the drug trade, monopolies, and things like this. And so when you see these families like the Astor family go from being totally poor, and in a few years John Jacob Astor is the richest man in North America, and maybe I'll use him as an example.
Okay.
Since I got started talking on him. John Jacob Astor came from Germany, from a small town, Waldorf. His background was being a butcher. He couldn't hardly speak any English. His English was broken. And he was the type of person that if you were sitting beside him eating, he might grab your shirt and wipe his dirty face on it while he was eating the meal. He was gross, he was crude, he was not somebody that you would enjoy being around. Yet this man who could barely speak English and who is an exceptionally obnoxious person, within a few years became the most richest man in America. Now, how did that happen? There had been fur trade for hundreds of years, but all of a sudden he comes to America and monopolizes the entire fur trade, basically, on North America. Now, how did he gain control? It's because somebody in the Illuminati councils had decided the Astor bloodline, which is a bloodline that goes back to antiquity, the name is a derivative of Astarte. They had decided that the Astor family, you know, would be given that privilege. Why did Bill Clinton become president? Somebody made the decision many years ago. You can look back at the things Bill popped off and said as he was a kid. He said, "I'm going to be president."
A contemporary biography noted that his wealth equaled 1/15 of all U.S. investments at the time, highlighting the scale of his financial dominance. Astor's descendants continued to wield significant influence, though they preferred to operate behind the scenes rather than openly serve on corporate boards. By 1890, they were estimated to own 1/20 of New York City's real estate. Over time, many Astors relocated to England, where they maintained their financial power in the U.S. through intermediaries. Estimates in the late 19th century suggested the family's wealth was undervalued at $300 million, and by modern standards, their fortune is thought to exceed $40 billion. The Astor family established several foundations to extend their influence. The Vincent Astor Foundation, managed from England, has significant tax-exempt funds and contributes to causes such as Catholic and Episcopalian institutions, public libraries, and programs aimed at preventing juvenile delinquency. Their contributions to organizations opposed to private gun ownership and public institutions like libraries illustrate the breadth of their influence. Another foundation, the William Waldorf Foundation, focuses on fostering cultural and educational ties between the United States and the British Commonwealth, further cementing the Astors' global reach. This description closely resembles the public statement of purpose shared by the secretive Pilgrim Society, created to provide some outward legitimacy. Interestingly, one of the Astor family foundations has assets totaling only $64,000. Despite this, the influence wielded by individual Astor family members, such as the late Vincent Astor, is extraordinary. Vincent Astor was affiliated with 41 private clubs and held significant roles in numerous businesses, including Director of American Express Company, Director of Atlantic Fruit and Sugar Company, Director of Chase Manhattan Bank, linked to the Rockefellers, Director of City and Suburban Homes Company, Director of Classical Cinematograph Corporation, Director of Cuban Dominican Sugar Company, Director of Great Northern Railroad, Director of Illinois Central Railroad, Director of International Mercantile Marine Company, Director of National Park Bank of New York, Director of New York County Trust Company, Director of Weekly Publications Inc., Director of Western Union Telegraph Company, Trustee of New York Zoological Society, Advisor of Bankers Trust of New York, Member of American Museum of Natural History, Member of National Institute of Social Sciences. The last two organizations mentioned, like many elite-controlled institutions, played a significant role in promoting evolutionary theory. Like the Rothschilds, DuPonts, and Rockefellers, the Astor family follows a tradition where the leadership of the family is passed down as a birthright to a male heir. This leadership structure resembles a monarchy, with power being handed from one generation to the next. The family's influence is also reflected in their construction of iconic properties. On the corner of 33rd Street and 5th Avenue, later the site of the Empire State Building, William Waldorf Astor and his associates built the original Waldorf Astoria Hotel, which opened in March 1893. Described as the ultimate in snob appeal, the hotel set the standard for elite accommodations. Later, two Astor cousins built the Astoria, another towering luxury hotel, which opened in 1897. The Astor family has also maintained private retreats for leisure, such as their main properties. In 1894, John Jacob Astor wrote a novel titled A Journey in Other Worlds, which imagined a society focused on energy conservation, an idea the elite often encouraged for the general population. In the late 19th century, the Illuminati began rebranding its public image by creating seemingly innocent cover organizations to disguise its activities. The Astors contributed to the establishment of the Pilgrim Society in 1901. This society served as a front for the American and British sixth-degree Illuminati members. At least 5 Astors are believed to have been members of the Pilgrim Society, including David Astor, John Jacob Astor VIII, and William Waldorf Astor III. During the 1970s, Baron Astor of Hever served as the president of the London branch of the Pilgrim Society, implying his position in the higher echelons of the group. The Astors were also deeply involved in the Group, Britain's counterpart to the Skull and Bones Society in the United States. Alongside about 20 other prominent families, the Astors played a leading role in this secretive organization, similar to how families like the Whitneys dominate Skull and Bones in the U.S. In 1910, the Illuminati restructured itself with the creation of the Round Table groups. The Astors, along with financier Abe Bailey, helped fund these efforts. Key figures like Cecil Rhodes and Alfred Milner played major roles in establishing the Society of the Elect, a highly secretive inner circle of the Illuminati. The Rhodes Trust, partially supported by the Astor family, funded the prestigious Rhodes Scholarship Program. While Rhodes initially wanted to incorporate Freemasonic rituals into these groups, Milner and others removed the ceremonial elements to streamline their operations. In 1919, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, RIIA, was established, with the Astor family serving as one of its primary financial backers. The RIIA is regarded as the British counterpart to the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, in the United States, and acts as a cover for the activities of the Illuminati. Waldorf Astoria was appointed to the RIIA, an organization deeply connected to global policymaking. Above the CFR and RIIA lie the Round Table groups, originally referred to by Cecil Rhodes as the Association of Helpers. Rhodes also founded the Rhodes Scholarships, a program designed to recruit top talent from around the world and bring them to Oxford University, where they would be indoctrinated into Illuminati ideals and prepared to work toward establishing a one-world government. This initiation into the Rhodes program is considered equivalent to the first degree of the Skull and Bones Society. The Cliveden Astors were particularly connected to the Rhodes Scholars, who often visited the Cliveden estate. A look at the Astor family genealogy reveals 2 powerful branches in London, one centered around Cliveden estate and another associated with the Hever Astors, also known as the Barons of Hever. William Waldorf Astor, an influential figure in this family, owned several prominent publications, including the Pall Mall Gazette, the Observer, and the Pall Mall Magazine. The Astors also took significant control of the Times of London, a major British news outlet, which they have owned since 1922. Like the Rockefellers and DuPonts, the Astors concealed much of their wealth, making it difficult to trace their true influence. Hoyt Amadon acted as a proxy for Vincent Astor and other family members, while Owen Lattimore served as their proxy in the opium trade. Lattimore was funded through the Institute for Pacific Relations, IPR, which played a role in allowing Red China to participate in the global opium trade. The Astors' involvement extended to significant historical events. For instance, the IPR helped set the stage for the Pearl Harbor attack. The Astors also supported the appeasement policies in Europe that allowed Adolf Hitler to rise to power. Domestically, they backed the temperance movement against alcohol, initiated by the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Like many elite-driven movements, temperance served broader interests. Other elite families, such as the Kennedys and Onassis, profited heavily from bootlegging during Prohibition. The Astors' legacy extends to their association with the Titanic disaster. Colonel Jack Astor, one of the world's wealthiest men at the time, perished in the tragedy. Although he could have saved himself, he chose to remain aboard the sinking ship, an act that has been praised for its honor. Many have interpreted the Titanic disaster as a symbolic warning to the New World Order's elite, emphasizing the consequences of unchecked pride and power. The Astors also played a role in advancing communism, which has been linked to the Illuminati through extensive documentation. The Fabian Society, a socialist group tied to the Illuminati, was another avenue of influence. Notable members, including H.G. Wells and George Bernard Shaw, worked to promote the idea of a New World Order. Wells, for example, portrayed the concept as a utopian vision in his works such as The New World Order and A Modern Utopia. However, this so-called utopia masked a much darker agenda. During the 1930s, Fabian socialists established the Political and Economic Planning Group, PEP, led in part by Mason Viscount Waldorf Astoria. This group implemented policies through the British government, later outlined in the book Principles of Economic Planning, 1935. Interestingly, the book's cover prominently features Masonic symbols, such as the square and compass. Lady Nancy Astor, another prominent family member, was deeply connected to George Bernard Shaw and became the first woman to serve as a member of Parliament in Britain. Her close relationship with Shaw, a communist and Fabian socialist, raised questions about her political motivations. Nancy Astor's election was soon followed by the rise of other elite women, such as members of the Russell family, to positions of political power. Communism often presents itself as the enemy of wealthy capitalists, but in reality, both the elite and communist leaders share similar goals. Both seek to undermine Christianity, replace free trade with monopolies, and establish a centralized, Illuminati-controlled one-world government. These shared objectives reveal their intertwined agendas. For example, during the 1930s, Waldorf and Nancy Astor visited Russia. Rather than being treated as adversaries, they were welcomed like royalty, raising questions about the narrative promoted by the elite-controlled media. This suggests that the same elites who claim to oppose communism actually control and support it. Nancy Astor was not only a supporter of socialism, but also an advocate for Christian Science, which has been criticized as a front for witchcraft since its inception. Nancy also authored The Natural History of the Vampire and a book about the early Mason and communist revolutionary Bakunin, using the Grenfell family papers. The Grenfells were close friends of the Cliveden Astors. David Astor, another prominent family member, attended Bilderberg meetings in 1957 and 1966, further cementing the family's ties to global elite networks. The Astors were deeply involved in exclusive Masonic lodges, such as the Alpha Lodge in England, which is traditionally associated with royalty. These elite lodges allowed them to avoid interacting with those outside their social class. The Astor family's influence extended across Illuminati-related activities, including Freemasonry, the Pilgrim Society, the Round Tables, Fabian Socialism, the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, RIIA, and the Bilderberg Group. They also had significant ties to major banks like Chase Manhattan. Ava Alice Muriel Astor, born in 1902, was an occultist with a strong personality. She was deeply interested in Egyptian magic and believed herself to be the reincarnation of an Egyptian princess and a follower of Akhenaten. Alice reportedly entered King Tutankhamun's tomb, where she acquired a necklace. She collaborated with Aldous Huxley, the author of Brave New World. While many view the book as a critique of dystopian society, it has also been interpreted as a blueprint for future plans. Together, Alice and Huxley were involved in various occult practices. The Astors' wealth and power have often placed them above the law. Observers like Myers have noted that the elite, including the Astors, operate as if they are the law. However, despite their vast influence, resources, and alleged roles as Illuminati royalty, their ultimate accountability will come when they face divine judgment. Masonic background of John Jacob Astor, 1763 to 1848. John Jacob Astor, one of the family's most influential figures, was deeply involved in Freemasonry. Master of Holland Lodge No. 8 NYC in 1788, Grand Treasurer of the Grand Lodge of New York from 1796 to 1801, Junior Grand Warden on 2 occasions, 1796 and 1801, Secretary of the Commandery, then called Encampments. Despite his busy life, he devoted significant time to Masonic activities, reflecting the family's deep connection to secret societies. The Astor family and the 13 Bloodlines. The Astor family is part of the 13 top bloodlines, with 5 of these families forming the core of this elite group. While the concept of these bloodlines gained broader attention with the book Final Notice by Barry Smith, in the 1980s, the names of these families were not widely known until later works like Be Wise as Serpents. This reveals how deeply entrenched and secretive the influence of these families has been throughout history. Barry Smith, an Australian author, noted in his book Final Notice that 13 families or groups are at the helm of the world government plan. He referenced the U.S. $1 bill, pointing out its reverse side, where 13 layers of blocks are depicted on a strange seal as a symbolic representation of these families. In an underreported account, a victim of satanic ritual abuse, SRA, stated that Satanism is controlled by a select few families. This aligns with claims that some of the wealthiest and most powerful families are deeply involved in sinister activities. For instance, a member of the DuPont family recently alleged on a television show that other family members tried to kidnap him due to his support for the book Dope, Inc. This book has been praised for exposing the elite's involvement in the global drug trade, confirming claims from various sources that Illuminati families play a significant role in drug trafficking. These families allegedly profit immensely while contributing to humanity's destruction. The book names several elite families, including the Astors, Bundys, DuPonts, Freemans, Kennedys, Lists, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and Russells as participants in the drug trade. It is no coincidence that 9 of the top 13 families are implicated. Other prominent families, such as the Bronfmans, Cabots, Shaws, Bacons, Perkins, Morgans, Forbes, Cisneros, and Oppenheimers, also appear in the book. Their names often surface in discussions about elite power structures. Additionally, individuals like Louis Mortimer Bloomfield, Robert Vesco, and Ivan Slavkov, along with organizations such as the Triads, P2 Masonry, and the CIA, are mentioned as part of this network. Dope, Inc. also explores how secretive and influential groups, such as the Order of St. John and the Jesuits, are tied to the drug trade. The Universal Christian Gnostic Church, known for practicing black magic, is highlighted for its role in this illicit network. Britain's assassination bureau, Permindex, which has been linked to major covert operations, is also covered. While previous research has examined families like the Rothschilds and Russells in detail, much of the information on the top 13 families remains speculative or incomplete. One of the challenges lies in the reluctance to believe that idolized leaders could be so corrupt. To address this, articles have been written to provide detailed accounts of these families and their activities with the hope of informing a wider audience. Challenges in verifying the facts. Investigating families like the Astors is particularly difficult because much of the information available has been distorted to serve their interests. Historical accounts often mix fact and fiction, making it hard to separate truth from fabrication. The Astors, in particular, have maintained a reputation for secrecy and deception. John Jacob Astor, the first prominent member of the family, was known for fabricating stories to mislead those who pried into his life. Historian John Upton Terrell, in his book Furs by Astor, noted that those who knew him well neither fully dismissed nor completely believed the tales about him, suspecting the truth lay somewhere in between. After his death, John Jacob's son ensured that any potential challenges to the family narrative were silenced by destroying his father's personal and business records. Origins of the family name. The Astor family has been attributed with various origins over the years, with conflicting narratives from supporters and critics alike. A plausible theory suggests that the Astors may have descended from the Astorga family, originally located in southern Italy before the 1600s. Linguistic evidence implies that the names Astorga and Astor could be derived from Astarte, a figure often associated with the occult and also referred to as Semiramis. In Babylonian mythology, Semiramis represented the moon in a trinity alongside Nimrod, the sun, and Tammuz, the morning star. This trinity was later mirrored in Egyptian mythology as Osiris, Isis, and Horus, with their depictions adapted by the Roman Catholic Church as the Virgin Mary and Christ Child. The family's European roots. The Astor family reportedly moved from Savoy to Waldorf, Germany. Historical accounts suggest that Waldorf housed significant figures in witchcraft and occult circles, potentially including members of the Astor family. During this period, the rigid European class system restricted social and financial mobility. The Astors, possessing influence within occult circles, saw an opportunity to leverage their position in the New World, transforming their spiritual authority into tangible wealth and power. Johann Astor, a butcher from Waldorf, sent his brightest son, John Jacob Astor, 1763 to 1848, to America to establish the family's fortune. John Jacob Astor's journey to America. At the age of 16, John Jacob Astor left the family butcher business and traveled to England before ultimately arriving in America. While conventional biographies present his journey as a personal endeavor, some interpretations suggest that his family's influence and connections played a role in his success. John Jacob's ability to connect with influential figures, such as the Backhouse family in England, indicates that he may have carried a significant degree of authority or backing from his family's occult associations. Michael Astor, in his book Tribal Feeling, emphasized John Jacob's focus on escaping poverty and establishing his family's financial security in America. The Astor family's rise can be viewed within the broader context of European occult traditions. By the late medieval period, southwest Germany was a hub for witchcraft associated with Diana, which alarmed the Catholic Church. The Astors reportedly held leadership roles within covens in the Heidelberg area, where witchcraft was widely practiced. However, their influence in Europe was limited by rigid social hierarchies. The New World provided an opportunity for the Astors to convert their occult leadership into financial and social prominence. Over the course of 400 years, the Astors strategically expanded their influence. They sent members to England and America to establish footholds before John Jacob's arrival. In America, John Jacob worked discreetly to support British elite interests, likely taking advantage of the secrecy surrounding satanic and occult practices. Once firmly established as American aristocrats, the Astors returned to England, where their elevated status led to recognition by the monarchy, including titles of nobility. Connections with the Illuminati and other elite networks likely facilitated their ascent. The Astor family's history is intertwined with broader connections among English royalty, Freemasonry, European witchcraft, and the Italian black nobility. Understanding these ties helps illuminate the historical and occult context in which the Astors rose to power. Although mainstream history often obscures these links, studying the relationships among these groups offers a deeper understanding of the family's significant influence. The Order of the Knights of the Helmet. The Order of the Knights of the Helmet was an illuminated secret society led by Sir Francis Bacon. To conceal its Masonic rituals, Bacon reportedly wrote and staged a play titled The Order of the Helmet. The play was performed on January 3, 1594, and again over 12 days in December of the same year. The performances served as a cover for initiation ceremonies involving British aristocrats who had been illuminated in the occult sense. During these ceremonies, Bacon was proclaimed King and Prince of Purple. Members were granted the collar of knighthood of the helmet, took vows, and participated in rituals resembling those of modern satanic groups such as the SRIA. While this may appear unrelated to the Astor family, it provides context about the interconnected occult activities in Europe at the time. Sir Francis Bacon's travels and involvement in secret societies. As a young man, Sir Francis Bacon toured continental Europe under the direction of the English monarchy, visiting France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. His journey included stops at significant locations such as the Louvre, St. Cloud, and Paris, as well as meetings with royal courts like that of Marguerite de Valois, whose mother, Catherine de' Medici, had a notorious reputation. During his travels, Bacon engaged with numerous secret societies and intellectual circles, including the Pleiad, a group of 7 intellectuals at Marguerite's court. According to Alfred Dodd, a biographer who devoted his life to studying Bacon, he was initiated into a variety of occult traditions, including Kabbalistic magic, Egyptian and Arabian mysticism, and German esoteric practices like those of the Steinmetzen. This exposure highlights how the occult network in Europe maintained contact across regions and often involved members of the aristocracy. The Hellfire Club. The Hellfire Club was another secret society with satanic connections, closely linked to early Freemasonry. When the connections between the Hellfire Club and elite Freemasonry became known, public backlash forced Freemasonry to officially distance itself from the group. In response, the Hellfire Club was publicly disbanded by the government, though it was quietly re-established later. Key figures in the Hellfire Club included Philip, 1st Duke of Wharton, who was also Grand Master of England's Freemasons, and Benjamin Franklin, a prominent Freemason and Rosicrucian. Franklin, who led various secret occult groups, was associated with the Order of the Quest, which purportedly worked to implement plans for a new world order. Franklin's involvement in the Hellfire Club extended beyond ritualistic activities. Alongside Sir Francis Dashwood and the Earl of Sandwich, Franklin held the position of Postmaster General of the British Postal Service. This role allowed them unrestricted access to mail, enabling them to monitor and intercept communications. These positions of power facilitated not only their influence over societal communications, but also their participation in occult activities. Dashwood's estate in West Wickham became a focal point for the Hellfire Club's activities, including satanic sexual rituals conducted in the caves beneath the property. Franklin reportedly spent the summers of 1772, 1773, and 1774 at this estate, engaging in these secretive rituals. John Jacob Astor, like many influential figures of his time, had close ties to Freemasonry. His network included prominent Freemasons such as New York Governor DeWitt Clinton and General John A. Armstrong. These connections highlight the deep intertwining of Freemasonry, occult practices, and societal power structures in the 18th century. The Hellfire Club's members, including Benjamin Franklin, Dashwood, and others, utilized their positions to advance their agendas while maintaining the secrecy of their activities. Ordo Saturnus. Ordo Saturnus is an ancient, secret satanic order originating in Germany. The name Saturn is often associated with Satan in occult contexts. This connection sheds light on a passage from John Jacob Astor IV's book, A Journey in Other Worlds, where he describes Saturn as a place of spiritual activity, featuring weird music, pulsating hearts, luminous brains, and centers of spiritual activity quivering with motion. Astor's writings and his reputation for an uncontrollable sexual appetite provide some insight into his controversial personality. One notable figure connected to Astor was Valentine June, his mentor in Waldorf, Germany. June may have been affiliated with an organization like Ordo Saturnus, though this remains speculative. John Jacob Astor's move to England and America. John Jacob Astor left Germany for England, where he was likely introduced to British intelligence by his brother George. British intelligence, historically tied to Freemasonry and the elite, played a pivotal role in shaping his connections. While in England, Astor socialized with the Backhouse family, a prominent aristocratic family. This association raises questions about how a supposedly impoverished young man gained access to such influential circles, a mystery left unexplained by modern biographers. After 4 years in England, George sent John Jacob to America to represent his music company. In 1784, at the age of 20, Astor arrived in New York, where his brother Henry introduced him to the city's occult circles. Among his initial contacts were William Backhouse, the American representative of the London Backhouse family, and Henry Astor. Astor's role in the fur and opium trades. John Jacob Astor quickly set his sights on dominating the lucrative fur trade. According to Dope Inc., the Astor family was the first American dynasty to enter the opium trade. However, their involvement was not a product of free enterprise, but was granted by the Committee of 300, a secret legislative body of the Illuminati. This committee reportedly allowed Astor to expand into both the fur and opium trades, privileging him over competitors. Fur trading at the time yielded profits of up to 1,000%, and the opium trade was tightly controlled by the elite. The Astor family's wealth and influence were deeply tied to their position within this secretive system. Their success was rooted not only in business acumen, but also in their connections to powerful occult networks. John Jacob Astor was deeply involved in Freemasonry, an organization linked to both his personal philosophy and his rise in power. He took Freemasonry seriously and advanced quickly within its ranks. Prominent figures like Governor DeWitt Clinton and his uncle George Clinton, vice president under Thomas Jefferson, were associated with the same Masonic lodge as Astor, Holland Lodge No. 8. This lodge also included members of the elite Livingston family, known participants in the Committee of 300. Interestingly, business at Holland Lodge No. 8 was conducted in German, raising questions about why prominent English-speaking figures were members. Astor's rapid rise within Masonic circles and his connections to elite families further solidified his influence in both business and society. John Jacob Astor is often described as embodying a philosophy of self-interest, believing in his natural superiority over others. According to historian David Sinclair, in Dynasty, The Astors and Their Times, Astor viewed the world as existing for his personal gain, considering himself among the chosen people destined to exploit it. This mindset, while contributing to his historical impact, distorted his legacy in moral terms. Astor's activities extended beyond legitimate business. He engaged in unethical real estate dealings and acted as a key figure in the drug trade, as highlighted in prior discussions. John Jacob Astor was part of a plan to establish an independent nation on the Pacific Coast with support from Thomas Jefferson, who is believed to have been associated with the Illuminati. Jefferson expressed his hope for the establishment of an independent nation on the Pacific Coast, bound to the United States by ties of blood, language, and friendship. Astor's goal was to rule this new nation, but the plan ultimately failed for various reasons. Astor's profiteering during the War of 1812. Astor leveraged the War of 1812 to his advantage, using his private courier system and influential connections to secure substantial profits. He had prior knowledge of the war and made preparations to benefit from it. John A. Armstrong, a fellow Mason and Secretary of War, reportedly assisted the British war effort, which indirectly helped Astor. Astor also received special sailing privileges from Jefferson and Albert Gallatin, enabling him to profit from the war. When the war was declared, Astor sent agents to inform British forts in Canada, giving the British an early advantage. This allowed them to seize American forts in the north, securing control over the fur trade in the region. Astor then manipulated the embargo on British furs to reduce competition and obtained presidential permission to import furs held in Canada before the war, though he used this permission to trap new furs illegally. After the war, Astor was among the first to sell furs in Europe, reaping significant profits. Astor later cleared his reputation by providing Washington, D.C. with intelligence about a mutiny at a British fort, enabling the U.S. Army to capitalize on the situation. Beyond the fur trade, Astor was involved in arms trading, with his firearms used in at least one Latin American revolution. It is noteworthy that many Latin American revolutions were reportedly planned in Masonic lodges. Astor's fur company was notorious for unethical practices. Employees were paid with letters of credit and then ambushed by Astor's agents to avoid payment, with their deaths blamed on Native Americans. As Zachary Taylor once remarked, "Take the American Fur Company in the aggregate, and they are the greatest scoundrels the world ever knew." O'Connor, Harvey, The Astors, page 44. William Backhouse Astor, the son of John Jacob Astor, gained infamy for his harsh treatment of tenants in his New York properties. He owned numerous poorly maintained buildings where living conditions were deplorable. Tenant complaints were ignored, and riots were suppressed by the police. Tragically, only half the children in these tenements survived to age 20. William B. Astor also supported the corrupt administration of New York City Mayor Fernando Wood, who was associated with the Tammany organization. Despite Wood's eventual exposure for corruption, Astor's involvement was largely overlooked, showcasing his power and influence. John Jacob Astor III, the son of William Backhouse Astor, John Jacob Astor III, followed in his family's footsteps of corruption and exploitation. He established sweatshops for impoverished workers in his New York tenements and supported corrupt politicians like William Boss Tweed, who led a criminal ring that stole millions from the city. Although Tweed was eventually convicted and sentenced to life in prison, Astor's role in the corruption was mostly ignored by the press, demonstrating the Astor family's ability to escape accountability. The Chandler branch. While most of the Astor family relocated to England, one branch, the Chandler family, remained in the United States and became notably involved in Satanism and occult practices. This branch descended from Maddie Astor Ward and exhibited characteristics linked to the satanic hierarchy. The Chandler children, who were raised on the Rokeby estate in New York, displayed behaviors suggestive of trauma and abuse, including signs of multiple personality disorder, MPD, and satanic ritual abuse, SRA. Notable members like Robert Chandler, Elizabeth Chandler, and Armstrong Chandler demonstrated classic indicators of these experiences: the Rokeby Mansion and the Chandler family. The Rokeby Mansion, home to the Chandler family, is described as a hub of paranormal activity, including sightings of ghosts, fairies, and other occult phenomena. This reflects a broader trend among former Illuminati members who have left Satanism, reporting that supernatural occurrences were often a normal part of family life. The Chandlers, though not widely known, were well connected to elite social circles. Theodore Roosevelt and Senator Henry Cabot Lodge, a member of the prominent Cabot family, were close friends of the Chandlers. The Chandlers also founded Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, which reportedly became a gathering place for middle management families within the Illuminati network. Allegedly, scouts from the Illuminati visited these locations to identify individuals suited for political office or other influential roles. Notable Chandler family members: John Armstrong Chandler. John Armstrong Chandler married Emily Rives, a mystic novelist and morphine addict. Rives was known for her unusual and intense interests, such as her desire to see a real fairy, and her sympathy for Satan, whom she prayed would eventually be forgiven and allowed back into paradise. Thomas, lately. The Astor Orphans, A Pride of Lions, page 76. John engaged in spiritual experiments he called esoteric Buddhism, which included trance states and automatic writing. During these sessions, a spirit allegedly spoke through him, even changing the color of his eyes. His fascination with these practices, along with business disputes with his brothers, led to his being institutionalized in an asylum, though he was later released. Margaret Livingston Chandler. Margaret retained ownership of the Rokeby Mansion and married into the Aldrich family, another prominent Illuminati-linked family. The Aldriches now control the Rokeby estate. William Chandler William was a friend of Tom Foley, a Tammany Hall district leader, and Jack Follins-Bee, whose cousin was William Randolph Hearst. Hearst, a prominent Illuminati member, played a major role in financing Billy Graham's early ministry. The Hearst family is also reportedly connected to the Rothschilds, with one descendant changing his name to Don Hearst Bauer. Winthrop Chandler, Winthrop Chandler's wife, Amelie Rives, came from a family with historical ties to Thomas Jefferson. Her father, William Cabell Rives, studied law under Jefferson. Connections to the Roosevelt and Delano families. The Roosevelt family has deep connections to the Astors and the Delano family, the latter being part of the Black Venetian nobility. These relationships span several generations. Franklin Hughes Delano, heir to a massive whale oil fortune, married Lavia Astor, the daughter of William Backhouse Astor. James Roosevelt. Roosevelt married Helen Astor, the daughter of William Backhouse Jr. James Roosevelt, a Freemason, married the sister of Vincent Astor's wife. These intermarriages illustrate how the Astors and their associates maintained influence through alliances with other elite families. The Astor family's legacy is intertwined with allegations of occultism and Satanism, particularly among the English elite during the 17th and 18th centuries. The Chandler branch of the family represents one such connection, with behavior and practices suggesting a deep involvement in occult rituals. The Illuminati are said to strategically align themselves with powerful bloodlines worldwide to consolidate their influence. This includes intermarriages with indigenous Americans to harness spiritual power and the use of reservations for rituals. Beyond occult connections, the Illuminati's influence extends into business and politics. Some families collaborate on a business level, akin to organized crime syndicates, while others are enmeshed in global systems and feel compelled to conform. Nepal, a predominantly Hindu kingdom, has historically faced external influence, particularly from the British Empire. The British established a system to make Nepal reliant on them, offering protection, educating elite families in Britain, and recruiting the Gurkhas, Nepal's warrior tribe, as mercenaries. If the King of Nepal were to challenge the New World Order, NWO, by taking an independent stance, he could face severe consequences, such as a revolution or invasion. The NWO has mechanisms to destabilize smaller nations, including leveraging groups like the Indian Congress Party or orchestrating other conflicts. Intelligence agencies such as the British MI6 and the American CIA are known to maintain a presence in Nepal, further cementing external control. A common strategy used by global powers to control nations is the Hegelian dialectic, creating conflicts like the Cold War to force smaller nations to align with powerful countries like Britain or the United States. For decades, Nepal's monarchy feared invasions from either India or China, which perpetuated its dependence on foreign powers. Switzerland, unlike Nepal, has managed to avoid taking sides in many international conflicts. This is largely because powerful Illuminati-linked bloodlines have maintained control over Switzerland for centuries. As a result, Switzerland has been insulated from the need to engage in artificially created conflicts. Families that are powerful, but not aligned with the Illuminati, often face destruction. For example, Howard Hughes, a highly influential figure, was targeted and undermined. Similarly, the Rothschilds systematically dismantled the Romanovs, the Russian imperial family. However, because the Romanovs were also an occult bloodline, some of their descendants were reportedly integrated into the Illuminati to preserve their lineage for occult purposes. Bloodlines of power. Many powerful bloodlines trace their origins to Venice and other influential centers of commerce and banking, such as Genoa and Byzantium. Venetian and Genoese families, often involved in international trade and banking, have historically leaned toward Gnosticism or non-Christian cults. Examples include Darius Socinus of Venice, a prominent figure associated with such practices. The Warburg family, closely linked to the Rothschilds, descends from Abraham del Banco, a Venetian banker. The Warburgs also share ties with the Rosenbergs of Kiev, Russia. Some of these aristocratic Russian families provided early financial support to Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. Many of these bloodlines have diversified their names over time, but remain influential. For instance, the Cabot family of Boston traces its lineage to Sebastian Cabot of Venice, whose father was Giovanni Caboto of Genoa. In modern times, members of the Cabot family have held influential positions, such as Thomas D. Cabot, who established Radio Swan for the CIA, and Paul Cabot, a director of J.P. Morgan and Company, connections to William of Orange and the Arab world. Western European ruling families often trace their ancestry back to William of Orange. There is also a notable Arabic connection to the Illuminati. Figures like Sirdar Iqbal Ali Shah, an expert in Arabic magic and occult practices, have contributed to this relationship. authoring numerous books on the subject. These families meticulously maintain their genealogies, with select members possessing detailed knowledge of their histories and occult practices. The Rothschild family remains one of the most powerful Illuminati bloodlines. While some suggest they are subordinate to other families, evidence suggests otherwise. Numerous insiders confirm their significant influence, and their wealth and control over global affairs are well documented. The Rothschilds are central to the Illuminati's power structure, with their dominance increasing over time. To gain a deeper understanding of power dynamics, it is helpful for investigators to examine how families are connected to influential bloodlines and how they interact with those at the top. This is similar to why history books often focus on royalty. Such figures are central to understanding how power is distributed and exercised. In the same way, investigating influential families tied to satanic or occult power structures can reveal how hidden systems of control operate behind the scenes. One example of this dynamic is described in the book Be Wise as Serpents, which highlights how power is wielded covertly. The Illuminati, for instance, have been linked to controlling organizations like the Watchtower Society, WT. For many years, Fred Franz served as the nominal head and president of the WT Society. However, in his later years, Franz became blind, bedridden, and unable to actively lead. During this time, all communication with Franz reportedly went through Nater Salih, who was officially his bodyguard and assistant. Salih, a tall man standing 6'2", was the intermediary who relayed messages to and from Franz. Some reports suggest that Salih may come from an Iraqi Jewish bloodline, adding another layer of intrigue to his role. Known for his luxurious tastes and large rings, Salih acted as a channel through which the Illuminati allegedly directed their decisions to the WT Society's governing body and staff at Bethel headquarters. This example illustrates how unseen power structures can influence and control organizations through strategic intermediaries, underscoring the importance of investigating these connections to uncover hidden agendas. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and I'll see you in our next video.